So, as you have already heard, my name is DIETMAR HAUSER. I'm head of programming at Sproing, which means I heard programmers. And Sproing, as you all surely know, is the leading game development company in Austria, based in Vienna, Austria. We have had some serendipitous events already, because some of the tools that were used to show these presentations clearly sucked. And I will try to explain why it is. So the idea behind this talk is, and since it's a pretty young audience, you might not have run into this so much, but it gets over time very tedious to have all these creative ideas and you want to express them, but the tools you have available to you are just not doing what you want. And I've explained to you, hopefully, or I try to explain hopefully why this is and what you can do about it. Beware, this talk contains a few dubious theories, but also some actual information, and I leave it up to your scientific skepticism to figure out what is what. And also a disclaimer, I'm not talking about plainly broken tools, so if they just don't work, then obviously they are not worth mentioning in a talk like this. Get your money back, or you'll never get your time invested back, unfortunately. Okay, let's start with definitions. What do I mean with tool in the context of this presentation? I looked it up on Wikipedia, the source of most of my knowledge. And it says that a tool is any physical item that can be used to achieve a goal, especially if the item is not consumed in the process. So I already have a little problem there. We don't really have physical items in game development, we use software. But the broadest sense of physical, software is also physical, because everything in the world is physical. And our goal, that's easier, is clearly defined. We want to make great or not so great games. But at least the third point fits, software can't really be consumed. You have to jump through a lot of hoops to create consumable software, and unfortunately this is a big trend at the moment, but ultimately, software is infinite. And here are some of the bigger tools that I might be talking about, but probably everybody can think of thousands of different tools that are used for game development. So it goes as broad as Photoshop and your image viewer and your text editor and so on. So all these are meant with tool in this context. What do I mean with suck? I added this slide recently and added a spelling mistake already. So the Urban Dictionary says, the source of the second part of most of my knowledge, defines suck as not good, bad. So I think this is pretty self-explanatory. It's probably worth mentioning that suck is a term that comes from jazz music. If a person plays a blowing instrument very badly, it's said they don't blow in it, they suck on it. So there is no sexual innuendo included in the word. So you can freely use it around minors. Good, so what are these tools? They make making games possible. Nowadays, and even in the olden days, it was not possible to create any games without tools. Or at least you need, if you're talking about software games, you need a computer to run the software on. Then tools can be free, bought, or self-made. So a lot of people donate their time and efforts and provide us with tools free of charge. Some people want to have money for the effort, like I'm one of those people, very selfish. So you can buy tools from them, and also you can make your own tools. The tools are standalone or pluggable, so some tools like, I don't know, an image viewer works out of the box, and others, if you buy a Maya plugin, then it's plugged into other tools. And a bunch of tools can be combined to make multi-tools. I call them multi-tools because it's, I think, a funny word. And it reminds me of that scene in Fifth Element, even though it doesn't really fit. Nevertheless, multi-tools will be the packages we've seen before, like Unreal Engine actually is a huge conglomerate of various tools, and those tools have varying degrees of suckage. So maybe the UV layout editor is awesome, but the script editor is not so awesome. So tools, we can boil it down to tools come in all shapes and forms, but every tool sucks, especially this one. But here it's by design. How do they do that? They are too hard to use. They don't do what you expect them to do. They are designed by sadists that want to make you suffer. So they cause frustration, which is a especially severe form of frustration. And they decrease productivity, therefore. So you want to get your stuff done, but this stupid tool is not working, it's crashing, the buttons are too small to click, I don't know. Surely you have encountered this situation many times. But oddly enough, at some point they don't anymore, and you forget about all the initial troubles you had. So here's my first theory on this. I define a possible tool space. On the vertical axis, we have the ease of use. So how easy is it to get the stuff done with this tool? And on the horizontal line, we have how specialized is the tool. So the more specialized the tool is, it has a more tighter domain where it can be applied to. Examples, you have a C compiler, it's extremely generic, but especially if you have never used before, it's very hard to use, so it would be in this area here. So not much specialization and not much ease of use. On the other hand, if you have an image viewer with a red eye correction that's fully automatic, you just click the red eye correction button, and if you're lucky, it will correct your red eyes. Then this would be up here. Extremely easy to use, you click a button, but very small usage domain. Makes red eyes not red anymore. Good, and from this we can draw a line. This is a border. So the ease of use and the specialization I claim are related. The area underneath this red line that I drew here is what people call reality, right? So tools that are down here actually exist, and the area above the red line is imagination. These tools only exist in commercials or in your head. And the key to overcome the initial burden of using a tool efficiently is when you first learn of a tool, you think of, oh, it can do this and this and that, and I will have to do this and this and that. And then you use it and you realize that it's not that easy, or it doesn't work like you thought. So this dot here is what you thought it was, and this dot here is what it actually is. And the length, you could say the Manhattan distance between those 2 points, to be technically, is the frustration that you have to overcome until you can use the tool nicely and efficiently. So what can you do about this? It's also, the red line I drew here also causes the fact that there will never be a perfect tool that does exactly what you want to do with very little effort doing it. Because you can only get close to this line, but you can never cross it. So to make a tool easier to use, you can decrease the specialization, and then you can go up here a little bit. Or if you want the tool to do more, you have to go this way, and you will bump into this line and have to go down a bit in the ease of use. I hope that's understandable. So what does this mean? Marketing, and I put marketing in quotes here because not all tools are professionally marketed, but this is the key for tools acceptance. So whenever somebody describes a tool to you, be it on a website or in a commercial or in a video or whatever, they market the tool to you and set your initial expectation. And in order to have the distance between the expectation and the actual tool as short as possible, this marketing should reflect reality. So the more closer you are actually describing what the tool does and how to use it, it might seem less attractive to potential users, but on the other hand, it also, users who actually pick it up will have a much better time with it. And the other thing is that it needs to do is to engage users emotionally. So if the potential users are excited to use the tool, and this kind of works against the needs to reflect reality goal, they are more likely to overcome the initial frustration of using the tool. And Toolmakers already do this, although often unintentional. One example of a company that does it really greatly is Unity. Whenever you see a presentation of Unity 3D, when Carl, whatever his name is, does the presentation, you want to pick the tool up and start making game with it. And it's actually somewhat similar to what he presents. On the other hand, tools that are developed in-house are usually the worst. So usually there is no marketing at all. I say, dear coworker, here's the tool I made for you. Take it. So this means the tool makers have the power, and here's the power cat appearing. So if you are creating tools, use that power. If you're not creating tools, keep in mind that the tool might not do what you initially thought it does, and give it a little time. So, it's that easy. Well, no, my thinking buddy Velociraptor ponders. Well, if tool makers are to blame, can it really be that simple? And this will come into my second theory I will present today. Tool makers have the power to market the tools correctly, or actually to make a good tool and then market it correctly. And after seeing this presentation, know all this, I already gave a similar presentation some time before, so everybody knows that they should market the tool right, and they have all the motivation to get tools users to pick up the tools and be excited by it. Why do new tools still suck? So I mean, it's okay, the legacy tool, they didn't know all this and various reasons, but now market research is awesome and technology is great, so why do we still have this problem when picking up a new tool? Well, unfortunately, you have a brain. Well, fortunately, I guess. I don't know. I'm not sure. Not decided yet. Sometimes it's good, sometimes it's bad. And your brain works in mysterious ways, and psychologists are the people who try to figure that out. And they came up with the dual process theory. And you can see psychologists are known for their creativity because they say your brain works in two systems. One of them is called System 1, and the other one is called System 2. So the System 1 is all the things you do if you are on autopilot. So everything that comes easy to you happens in System 1, and if you actually think about something and reason about it and ponder it and so on, that happens in System 2. System 2 takes a lot more energy and is much harder to turn on and use. So most of the things happen in System 1. And this also introduces another hypothesis, that is cognitive ease versus cognitive strain. So the more you use System 2, the more cognitive strain you have. And strain is bad and ease is good, in case you didn't know that. So how does this look like? Here's a picture from one of the books describing this. If you have repeated experience, like you have used the tool a lot, it will contribute to ease. If you have clear display, and this means like the user interface is nice and the font is readable and the whole experience of using it is nice, this also is ease of use. Then the primed idea, this is where the marketing comes in. So if you already know this tool works like this and it does this and this is actually correct, then you are primed to this idea and you're more likely to experience cognitive ease. And the last thing, and this is actually very important, is if you're in a good mood, things that could cause cognitive strains are easier. So all of these feed into ease, and out of this comes all these nice and warm feelings. It feels familiar, feels true, feels good, feels effortless, and this is what we ideally want to feel like all the time. So you can either have those 4 things or you just take drugs. So what does this mean? Your body will actually resist new tools. There's a body, but so you can give in to this resistance and miss out on the tools, or you persist and enjoy the awesome tools that are available. And some hints about doing that: be and stay rested. So this is, as I said, system 2 functionality, which is getting to know a new tool, needs more energy than system 1 functionality. So if you're not rested, you're very likely to give up early on things. So if you hit a boundary, and this is actually true for most thinking jobs, if you're tired, you will give up much more easily. So if you hit an impasse, just take a break. Repeated exposure. So use the tool, maybe it doesn't work well, come back after a while, try it again. It will become easier. For me, as an anecdote, I had to start 3 times with Twitter before I managed to figure out how to use it, and I'm probably still not very good at it. And the most important thing, stay curious. As marketing and the emotional engagement of marketing will lure your brain into thinking this is something I want to do, the thing you can do is to stay curious. So your curiosity will help you to overcome this initial burden of getting used to tools and also to other things. Okay, and I'm already almost at the end. Very good in time. Tools are important, obviously. Without it, you can't make games. But making good tools is hard. There are no silver bullets. Nobody will ever invent the perfect tool. It's just impossible, as per my possible tool space theory model. Getting used to tools is hard too, because your body resists. So the only thing you can do is to keep calm and push through. Yeah, and having said all this, some tools will still suck even despite your best efforts. And with this, I have shot my bolt already, and we have loads of time for questions. You get a longer break if there are not enough questions.
We have time for a couple of questions. So also again, please, the Twitch users, please post them directly to the channel. So what are the questions in the audience? Are there any? Yes. Or are there many?
Consider lifetime.
Hello. Could you name some examples of tools that really suck?
Well, recently I've been dealing with the whole Android toolchain. This would be one series of horrible experiences after another. But they're trying to make it better, but not fast enough for my tastes.
So I see some of your points, and I see some of them from the other side of the direction, because I'm a tool maker, but not for the game industry.
Mm-hmm.
And I have to say, most of my tools suck. Yes. But I figured out that there is one special point. I found out that some tools suck and some tools are accepted well by the users. And the point is, you have to catch the users at the right point in time, when it's ready enough to present the user something, to show you the tool, or here the tool, and it's not too far away that you still can change things in your tool. For example, I made a tool for planning, and it deals with process networks. And at the beginning, when I started doing the tool, I just asked, I said, I can probably use graph with dot to make a flowchart. and they presented it, and all said, we don't need that at the beginning. And half a year later, some colleague came up with, he said, I have made a superb flowchart. All we have to do is use this tool. It was very expensive. And he had to twist his IP completely. He had to rewrite the flowchart into programming code and then make a diagram out of it. And then I came up again with my idea and said, this is exactly what Graz does. And he said, no, it's completely different. And next day I came up with the same flowchart he made, and I made it with Graz. And the interesting point was, in the beginning, nobody realized that this should be one of the most important parts of the tool. And even if it was finished after 2 days, they all said, okay, that was exactly what we needed. But it was just the importance of the time when you present this to your user. And I think in lectures about software development, this is one issue that isn't faced, I think. They tell you a lot about planning and how you can plan something, and you have to plan everything ahead, but that's impossible. It's just impossible because you have to catch the user at the right time to show what your tool can do, and then together you can develop a better tool than in the beginning. That's all for what I would say about this. And so it's interesting. What do you think about this point in time?
Yeah, I think you make at least two very important points. One is if you are in contact with as a maker is in contact with the users, obviously you should use this connection to improve the situation. However, in my work I have experienced that the users often don't really know what they want, and your anecdote with the graph is changing back and forth kind of illustrates that as well. But it's a very good resource that you have to improve this maker-user relationship. And the other point you made about the right time, yeah, I would count this under the marketing aspect. Okay. So and actually, on your point about these things not being taught in software engineering is also also hits that point, because getting the software to be accepted by the users is only tangentially actually a software engineering topic. It's more an economic and a psychological topic. So I also I did not study, but in my education I also had economically education, so I know a bit about marketing, like there's 4 P's or something like that. And I think this to some extent helps in understanding the relationship between tools makers and tools users. There's a pretty good book about this whole topic. It's called Peopleware, and the subtitle is People Make Software for People or something like that. And this deals with all this aspect that you know, there's this invisible wall between creators and users, and they actually should work together to create a good product.
I think we have time for 1 or 2 more questions. Is there anything on Twitch?
So my question also deals with, I guess, the marketing aspect in a way, and only applies to internal tool developers. And I was wondering that maybe some tools suck on purpose in some aspects. So I heard anecdotal evidence that like in a game development team, they introduced a new tool, new way of, it was some physically based rendering stuff. and a new way how to create content. And one of the artists then was reluctant to use the new way and insisted on doing it the old way. And so the tools programmer then had to add the old way as well, but made it really difficult on purpose to convince the guy to actually switch to the new process.
Yes, I can see this happening very clearly. Well, this is clear trickery to get a person who is not willing to use his system to facilities and is curious to learn something new. But there's actually a good case for making a tool suck. And that is, if it's a dangerous tool, then it should be hard to use. It should not be hard to use as in it's easy to make mistakes. So that's one hard usage case. It should be hard to use, that it takes some effort to actually do something, so that there is a certain reluctance in applying these dangerous tools. I mean, probably if you see old movies from that show the inner workings of nuclear power plants, I think they're purposefully designed that you have to run from one button to the other and use 2 keys and all this. And this is clearly not a nice user experience, but it's very important that it happens like this, so that things don't accidentally go off. In software engineering, this is probably a bit less common, but I don't think it's unheard of. Right.
Okay. How about the last round of applause?